Welcome, everyone. My name is Veronica Chambers, and I'm editor of narrative projects at the New York Times. Tonight, we're very happy to share with you episode number 2 of the celebrated series, Black History Continued. I'm extremely excited to join this global community as we explore joy through the lens of Blackness. I'm logging in from London, England. Please join me in the chat and let us know where you are. You can tweet along with the program by using the hashtag Black History Continued. Last year, Juneteenth became the focal point of a national conversation. People who had never even heard of the holiday learned about it for the first time, and companies, including the New York Times, gave employees a paid day off to observe this historic moment. I've been celebrating Juneteenth for a long time, and I believe, just as the Times concluded in our 2020 coverage, that the elemental message of Juneteenth has always been one of hope. The gifts of the holiday are found in the moments of connection, renewal, and joy it creates for our communities, for people who have endured so much for so long. In this episode, we hope to dive deeper into the conversations we started last year with a powerful program. We begin in South Central Los Angeles with street dance activist and Harvard professor Dr. Shamell Bell. Then we'll head to Brooklyn, my hometown, to meet up with The Layout, a group of activists and organizers who will help us reclaim time, energy, and most importantly, a connection to one another through taking up space. Celebrated musicologist, producer, drummer, and recently turned filmmaker, Questlove, will take us back in time. The year is 1969. The place is Harlem, and it's a summer called Black Woodstock. It's so exciting. And we'll close tonight with the incomparable singer-songwriter Esperanza Spalding, as she builds a joyful community of sound makers and leaves us with a very special performance. Welcome to the new Black Joy.
How do I define joy? Joy is resistance. Joy is a capricin. To live in the United States as a Black person is an act of resistance, is an act of radical joy.
Hey y'all, my name is Dr. Shamell Bell, pronouns they, the she series. I like to be called sis, so what's up, sis? And yeah, that's it. And I'm feeling just incredible and excited to be here and just honored and ready to stand in my purpose and do my calling, y'all. So my favorite social dance move, y'all could probably already guess it, it's the Dougie. All right, so and 5, 6, 7, everybody hit that Dougie. If you know how, hit that Dougie. You know how.
In his book, Freedom Dreams, The Black Radical Tradition, Dr. Robin D.G. Kelley advises, without new visions, we don't know what to build, only what to knock down. We not only end up confused, rudderless, and cynical, but we forget that making a revolution is not a series of clever maneuvers and tactics, but a process that can and must transform us. With the inspiration of Kelley, we do collective freedom dreaming through dance, meditation, and collective action. So, street dance activists, we lead you all in a process of transcendence and transformation that shifts us towards a new vision and a dance piece of liberation. Street dance activism, we want to move you with your body, move you from the feelings of always being in lack So if we're always looking at what we don't want or what we don't have or what we want to dismantle, what we want to destroy, what we want to decolonize, then we don't have the space for radical imagination. So what we do with our bodies, we all come, our full selves and our bodies moving, and we're welcoming that radical new vision and imagination. And so what we're doing is when we're playing the sound bowls, we're dreaming of that new shift, that new vision, that new dance piece of liberation. It has all dancers welcome, and it's more than just dancing. We set intentions, and not only do we set intentions for what we are moving, we are lifting frequencies, we are lifting vibrations. It's a healing modality, and it's something that is getting us out of our despair and our grief, and we're processing through those emotions, we're transcending, and we're transforming, like Robin Kelly asked us to do, that it should be a process of transformation. And that is what we're doing with street dance activism. In order to understand your joy, you gotta understand the pain, right? And so, like, in order for us to understand light, you gotta know what the dark is. And so I think that that's something that's really important with street dance activism. We want us to go through all of our different ranges of emotions, right? So sometimes we let it all out, the pain, the grief, you know, and we process those emotions, but we bring it to the other side, which is then joy, right? But you need that pain in order to understand joy. But you know what? My affirmation is this: I no longer want to learn lessons through pain and suffering. I want to learn lessons through ease and flow and radical joy. And I think a lot of that is a choice that we're making with street dance activism. Understanding that there's a process that we are to grieve, but in that process of grief, there's a choice to shift our perspective to that which we cannot see, but we know that is tangible and just right there if we just move toward it.
Our duty to fight for freedom.
It is our duty to fight for freedom.
It is our duty to win.
It is our duty to win.
We must love and protect one another.
We must love and protect one another.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
Loud.
It is our duty to fight for freedom.
It is our duty to fight for freedom.
It is our duty to win.
It is our duty to win.
We must love and protect one another.
We must love and protect one another.
We have nothing to lose but our chains.
We have nothing to lose but our chains. Ashe.
Ashe.
In the summer of 2020, a group of extraordinary people decided to use their collective power to provide a restorative space for Black folks to rest, recharge, and simply exist after weeks of protest. These friends, colleagues, and neighbors came together in a public park to center Black expression, Black presence, and Black visibility. Together, they have created a safe haven and social demonstration of love and resistance. Meet the layout.
Joy, pump it up.
Joyful, joyful.
What's really interesting is, especially now, everything is about Black joy.
Everything's about Black joy.
Everything. It's the commodification of Black joy. We're watching it in real time as a direct antithesis to last year and last summer with the uprisings, right? So it's like, let's hurry up and make sure everything is okay and put this big, like, Black joy Band-Aid on it. If we highlight it, everything is okay. The Blacks will be fine in the country. And I think thinking about what our joy actually is, it's not a hashtag, right? It's the way that we are taking up space now. It's the being for me.
Hello, hello. Hi. Yay. Ooh, ooh. Sorry. Okay. Hi, my name is Emily Nadu, one of the co-founders of The Layout. We are so excited to welcome people back for our second year. Funny enough, this actually coincides with the 1-year anniversary of the first one. So thanks y'all that came back. It's a reunion.
Peace, y'all. Make some noise, please. Let me hear some voices. Let me hear some energy. Let me hear some soul. Let me hear some spirit. There we go. Because we alive, y'all. Like, let's just start there. Like, we woke up this morning and we came to the park to enjoy each other, to stand in communion. And so amongst the team, we are so thankful and grateful to have you. And we hope you enjoy yourselves today. We hope you enjoy yourselves tomorrow and every day that you get blessed with after that, all right?
The layout, for me, is just such a wonderful and magical story because it is everything about Black joy, Black hope, Black community, art, the way we just are magnetic and like attract each other. So the layout really started last year following George Floyd's murder. I know for all of us that watching George Floyd's murder, but then seeing all the protests and things that were happening in New York, and I think for many of us that have been spending time in the park, it just felt like we needed each other. We knew that we just wanted something to come together, and I think just through the magic of, you know, speaking something out loud to one another, and it came together so quickly. Bree and I were like talking on a Thursday.
Literally in the park.
Literally in the
Right
park, on
over
the
there.
edge of the park though.
Yeah.
And for me, even the symbolism, we were sitting on the edge of the park, looking out into the park and not seeing Black faces.
Yeah.
Protests got pretty heavy in Fort Greene, right along
Right
the
on
perimeter
DeKalb,
of the park.
yeah.
And as part of the protest that night, a police van ended up burned, like having a Molotov cocktail thrown into it, exploding. And I remember getting up that next morning after, you know, meeting Manushka, to actually like clean up because I live right in the neighborhood and everything was gone. It was like it had gone from looking like a Jerry Bruckheimer movie to nothing.
Pleasantville,
To
you know?
Pleasantville.
Yeah.
Literally, like Stepford wide. Like it
Yeah.
was crazy. Like the farmer's
Just
market
farmers
was
market,
out,
the dogs
sunny
are back
day,
out,
people
like
were in the park.
there wasn't any pain or
There's
anything to
no
be seen
pain,
before. Like,
but the only thing that was left over from the previous night was the letters Black Lives Matters, or the words Black Lives Matter spelled out in the ashes of the police van. And I feel like even for that, just getting to that moment, and so we just very quickly came together, literally from, we started talking about it on a Thursday night. Bree and I started talking about it. We connected with Cy and Brother Michael, who's not here. And then Manushka was already part of the gang, and we went from like Thursday talking about it to Friday at 1 p.m. saying, F it, we're putting up a flyer, let's do this.
I mean, and thinking about how deeply of a balm it was in the middle of COVID, in the middle of the uprisings, to have Black folks congregate and come together for no other reason, not in protest, not in pain, not in anger, to hold space and breathe. We claim and reclaim this space in an open, shared public park. Why not? Why not just come and be? There's a moment for rest. There is a moment to just tap back in to community, to hope, to our faith, to the thing that tethers us to each other. I mean, it was so beautiful. And then people have continued to say that, like, y'all saved us last summer. Y'all literally saved us.
Joy is a form of resistance. Rest is a form of resistance.
We should not still be here, and we are, because we have this joy about us that overcomes anything and everything.
Finding the beauty in life, no matter the circumstance, no matter the environment or the conditions. And I think we all, knowing our history, only strengthens that. That connectivity to true human emotion, the ability to smile, regardless of.
And that connectivity to each other, right?
And then that's what builds the community. Because it's a connective thread, connective tissue amongst all of us.
Here we go. I am.
Here we go. I am here.
I am here.
I am present.
I am present.
I am loved.
I am loved.
And I am.
unstoppable.
There we go. I love that.
Joy and rest are synonymous when we're talking about resistance, especially for Black people.
Yeah, and I feel like self-care, that hasn't been something that we've been able to prioritize. We haven't been given that opportunity to prioritize that in our lives. And I think a lot of us, we struggle with self-care, and we think about the luxuries, like what we can afford to do, like going to the spa, versus looking at self-care as like self-work. Like you don't even know when to turn things off. You don't know how to set certain boundaries in the workplace, constantly performing so that your blackness isn't the first thing that people see. And like you said, it's like an always on thing, and it's exhausting. So I mean, self-care is something that I'm not just doing it on a Sunday. No. I'm not participating in self-care for the hashtag. It's literally something that I have to prioritize day in and day out, because in the past, I didn't even know what that looked like. Didn't even know how to self-care properly. And it's definitely something that is moving through our community, and it's becoming normal, and I love that for us.
Hope and faith are like the drum beats of our community. It is it's the due north that is continuing to keep us on the path of striving, surviving, trying to thrive in spite of everything that this country keeps throwing at us. And hope is the thing that allows us to also just be. And I think that there's a sacredness to the being, and it's powered by hope. It's elevated, supported. It's there's so much love in the hope that we all have for our collective selves, that all we got is us, and there's got to be better.
Not to like diminish it, but I think hope is a byproduct of a stronger force. And I think what really exists at that core, really at that centering, is love. And whether we have a full understanding of love, whether we have a grasp of love, no matter how we've experienced love, or even the opposite of the adverse, that's the light that continues to just pull us in a certain direction. That's the thing that lends us to faith. That's the thing that lends us to optimism. Love is the source that pushes us even when we don't have a clear sight of what's ahead of us or what we're moving toward. I think that is the beauty of our human existence and our experience. That is, what magnetizes the resilience. That's what straightens our back when we feel slumped down, when we've gone through too much, when the weight is overwhelming. It really is love, and no human has the perfect definition of it, but we are the perfect definition through our actual being, through our ability to just breathe and to have this life, and to continue moving forward, and to continue waking up, and to continue making choices and decisions, and continue speaking and hugging and all the things.
The poet, the poet, exactly.
Go ahead, magnetize. Go ahead, magnetize. Somebody give him a mic. Somebody give him a mic.
Yes. He said we are magnetic.
Wow. From the energizing power of togetherness to restorative moments of solitude, from the love we show each other to the joy of loving ourselves and our blackness, it's apparent on screen that Black folks are joy, especially when we get together. You'll see this for yourself in the electric new documentary film, Summer of Soul. Making his directorial debut, Questlove takes us on a journey to the 1969 Harlem Cultural Festival, which was an experience nearly lost in history and time. My colleague, the journalist Pierre-Antoine Louis, hung out with Questlove in Harlem to find out more. Take it away, Pierre.
Thank you, Veronica. Hey, family. Once again, I'm Pierre-Antoine Louis, New York Times writer and Haji B podcast host. I'm so excited to be here in Harlem with the phenomenal Questlove as he introduces us to his debut film, the epitome of Black joy and music realness, Summer of Soul.
The revolution will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised, will not be televised. The revolution will be no rerun, brothers. The revolution will be live.
When did you find out about the festival?
Okay, so I inadvertently found out about the festival. I was in Japan 1997, and unbeknownst to me, I saw 2 minutes of the Sly and the Family Stone footage at like some really hip restaurant in Tokyo. You know, they were just playing like random soul artists all over their walls. And I remember seeing Sly and his sister Rose. They were doing a weird vaudeville-esque dance thing called the ham bone. You know, that's I was like, Sly and the Family Stone's doing the ham bone? Okay. But I saw it without any context, and I only saw 2 minutes of it. So naturally in my mind, I just thought, oh, this is like some European music festival. They must be in Switzerland, or Montreux Jazz Festival, or that sort of thing. Because I didn't see the faces at all. Like the camera was far away. And then 20 years later, in 2017, these two gentlemen, Robert Filant and David Dinerstein, they approached me about this mythical, magical music festival that happened here in Mount Morris Park. And they said Stevie Wonder, Sly Stone, and Nina Simone, and B.B. King, and Glass Night and the Pips, and like all these names. And they're like, over 300,000 people were witness to this, and there's no record of it anywhere. And, you know, I Google it and all this stuff, and I'm like, this didn't happen. So in my mind, I was a little skeptical, like, well, wait a minute, like, how, if this is the Black Woodstock, like, how come it's not up there in history? Like, because, you know, if it's on the internet, it's real, right? Like, that was sort of like my kind of position. And sure enough, man, they showed me this footage, and I was taken aback because it was real and it was magical. The first thing they showed me was the Sly footage from another camera angle, and I realized, like, oh, this is Harlem? Actual Harlem? And like, yes, this happened. And I was like, it was recorded and nobody was interested, not anybody. And unfortunately, that's the sad fact. And that was sort of the seed in my head, like, you know, is our history that disposable? Right. Is Black erasure that casual? Like, with just the casual throwing history away like that? So that to me made me more obsessed with getting to the bottom of this. Like, so I felt more like a private investigator of soul. Private investigator of soul.
Families, fathers, mothers, kids running around. I was one of those kids. Beautiful, beautiful women, beautiful men. It was like seeing royalty.
Especially when you think about the lineup. When I saw the lineup, I'm like, how did we not hear about this? And all you saw in the crowd was this joy, people just happy, and them just kind of needing this. Can you talk a bit about joy and the importance of that when it comes to gathering around music?
So here's the deal. It's probably best worded by one of our talking heads, one of the festival attendees. At the time, he was 17. And his name is Darryl Lewis. And Darryl's the father of Miles Marshall Lewis, you know, great author, former journalist at Vibe, and, you know, like I grew up on Miles's articles in The Source and stuff. And Darryl put it plain, like we were trying to figure out the mystery ourselves, and he's like, you know, you just got to understand where we were at the time. Martin Luther King had gotten assassinated, and the prime purpose for this concert was really just to keep Black people from even thinking about any civil unrest or riots in the streets. That was the only reason why. It was like, we gotta have something for them to do and keep them occupied and keep them happy. And once the summer was over, it was kind of like, all right, well, we're done. We're good. And you know what? Actually, what wound up sort of stealing the thunder of what this movie should have been is Soul Train. So Soul Train becomes the national paradigm shift that affects every black person in America. And that's one of the first true examples of black joy. You know, that Soul Train actually wound up being the first true example of black joy and Afrocentricity, and not by default, you know, because Soul Train was a powerful component, and that changed my life. But I will say that there's a moment in Prince's autobiography that always stuck with me, where he talks about how seeing Woodstock at the age of 11 changed his life. You know, it's 1970. He's 11 years old, and this is one of the rare bonding moments that he had with his father as a kid. And that was his come to Jesus moment, watching Woodstock on TV. So, not on TV, in the movie theaters. And, you know, I often wonder, like, man, like, this movie could have or should have been that for me.
Right.
Luckily, I found a life in music, another way to that promise, holy, you know, that promised land. But, you know, what about the millions of others that didn't have this film as a means to do that? And, you know, like, because Woodstock is way much more than just a concert. It became like a defining moment of a generation. And this could have been that for us. And, you know, but this is powerful and potent enough to, I still feel, resonate and have ripple effect long after, 50 years after the fact. This is still that powerful.
I think it could still feel that way now, you know? Something I noticed in the film, just people walking here, people walking together, being around. How important do you think it is for black people to just have that kind of space, just kind of be together and just be and just exist?
It's important. You know, and the thing is that it seems such a casual, almost a trivial thing, like just to exist and have a space of joy, just to have a good hour, just to have, you know, a good day. And it seems like it's trivial, but I mean, we know that there are people I know that live hour to hour, day to day. And then, you know, oftentimes black people, a lot of us are living in fight or flight.
Yeah.
And when you're in fight or flight mode, that really doesn't allow room for growth, because you're only thinking about your next hour, you know, your next paycheck. You know, I lived a life like that. When I was a kid, yo, dog, to like one of the most dreadful sentences my parents could ever say to me was, Amir, you gotta go to the store and get more toilet paper. Amir, you gotta run to the store. And now suddenly, like, I become like, I gotta navigate the block and figure out which route to go, how to avoid the school bully and all this other things. And, you know, just to get home unscathed was like a victory to me. And so, you know, and that's sort of like just a light childhood tale, but I mean, there are people that, again, a lot of us, 80% of us are living in fight or flight mode, which every day is a fight to the finish. And just to have a good day is an achievement. And so, yeah, I deem that highly, highly important, because you can't do the growth and you can't do the work until you're in a state of peace, and you won't feel a state of peace until you are relaxed and happy. And so, yeah, we need that a lot. Yeah, we do need that.
Can we even like measure the impact of black culture to like society?
Measure the impact? You know, I feel like we are the real life human equivalent of, I believe his name is Shel Silverstein's The Giving Tree. you know, that book of a little boy that finds a tree that practically gives its entire limbs to him, you know, for everything as in toys, houses, boats, and whatever. And then, you know, the boy's kind of selfish and taking from the tree and taking from the tree, and the tree's so selfless, giving and then giving, and then at the end of the, you know, the boy then becomes an 80-year-old man, and they chop the tree down, and the last part of the tree is the cane that the boy uses. Like every part of that tree gets used to help the boy, and that's often us. Like where we give and give and give and give and give and give and give, or most times we're taken from. And you rarely see. I mean, it could be content on social media. It could be fashion choices. It could be our slang, our music, even our science and our math from centuries ago. So, you know, I think I lived a life previously where I just thought that a lot of these things will come into fruition maybe in my 70s or 80s. I figured like, okay, by 80, we'll see our first black president, maybe, if we still have a country left. You know, like those things, that's what I thought. But now I'm realizing that we're probably living in the maybe in a neo-reconstruction, if you will. So I'm witnessing that in my 50s, kind of a new beginning. And it's, you know, time will tell how we spent this particular period. So I knew that this is my, you know, my contribution to our new beginning.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to bring up some folks.
I was nervous. We were so excited about being there. We joined our hands and say prayers before we went on stage.
Gladys Knight!
Now, when I stepped on stage, I was totally taken aback because I didn't expect a crowd like that.
And the Pimps!
I bet you're wondering how I do. Baby, that's pain to make me blue.
You know?
We're gonna take a walk in the park.
Sure, absolutely.
Explore.
Get away from these bugs.
I've been like this.
Welcome back. We hope you're enjoying the program so far. I'm Veronica Chambers, and to me, joy is so many things. Lorraine Hansberry said, to achieve the universal, you have to pay very close attention to the specific. So I'm going to give a very specific answer of my definition of joy. Right now, it's an Amerigo Gazaway mashup of Mos Def and Marvin Gaye on a sunny day. That's my joy. Tell us in the chat what joy is to you. We love to hear from you, and we're loving all of your comments so far tonight. I moved outside because next up, I have a special surprise. I'm delighted to introduce Charlie Brinkhurst-Cuff, a brilliant editor joining the Black History Continued team. Hi, Charlie.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
I first heard of Charlie when I guess a few years ago, I started reading Galdem, and I just loved everything that you guys were doing, the voices that you were representing for women and non-binary people of color. And I'm just so excited for you to be joining this project. And this is still your first week at the New York Times. And I know that one of the things that you've been working on is a new book, which we were already deep into working on the series, which we called Black Joy. And your new book is?
Black joy.
Yes. So clearly there was a mind meld.
Absolutely.
So tell us, what does joy mean to you?
It's a good question. So I was thinking about this on the way here, and much like you, it is many different things to me all at once, and I think that there should be space in these conversations for both reflections on individual joys and collective joys. But one specific one for me is, you know, when you're in a group surrounded by people who love you, and there's just that feeling where you still are aware that you're just an individual, and you look up and you have a moment to yourself and you look around and you're just like, wow, I'm surrounded by so much love and so much kindness, and I feel so secure and so happy. And I think in the pandemic, that's one thing I've really missed, actually, is just that feeling of almost being alone in a crowd, but in a crowd of people who adore you. And so, yeah, that's my joy at the moment. And coming back into like sunny London at the moment and finding those pockets with people in parks and outside, nice and safe, has been wonderful. So, yeah.
That's awesome. I love that. And next up in our program, we've got you and Esperanza Spalding in conversation, talking about joy, music, and resilience.
Yeah, it was a really magical interview, and she is just such a talent. And I'm so excited for everyone to just get a little glimpse into this amazing artistic community that she's building in Portland. So yeah, please stay around for the interview and performance that she'll be doing later as well.
So maybe it would make sense for us to do a couple takes of this on that. In the storm of that good day, and everything that is a zone.
It's gonna be all right.
Doing still though?
Yeah, just a little bit. I think it's between, you know, like.
Everyone who brought you in. Everyone who brought you in.
You hear it?
My home and stone me away. Dare to say it, dare to say it. Please, just what do you need, babe?
No? You're right, you're right.
So you can see like the flow of everything that's coming and everything you just did. Yeah. It's actually, it's so simple, but it's so helpful.
Oh, it's all right, it's all right. Get it off. Matter of fact, I got something for you in my car. Yes, sir. I got a little Nina across the street.
We don't want to do that.
That food is.
So, you might have little hands. Then it's okay. This is your middle finger, it's your index finger, and this is your thumb. Yeah, and this is your ball.
I might be tripping. Pine, it's probably pine shavings. Make some shavings. We have cut mine. Okay. Put fresh pine shavings. Okay. So clean. Wait, we're not. So. But basically, the fruit of this iteration of the Songwriters Apothecary Lab is three songs plus 2 songs that will probably come later. And the theme as our collaborator and art director like distilled it to, is the practice of saying. So these songs are all formulas to support being able to say what is so difficult or seemingly impossible to say to a loved one or to a family or sometimes to yourself. Why am I looking for a lie? I lied true, I've tried.
But it's like years away,
Most of these folks are going that way to be known, to get it made, to know you need it that way, is to let me love you, babe. We know you need it that way, now we know, to get it made.
When I got here, and once things started really unfolding and I started understanding what Ganavia was doing, like I've never ever done anything like this before, but I have to say it was a very rich and just fruitful experience, and yeah, thank you for having me on with you, man. It was amazing.
We were talking about that a lot, actually, like how it's so different creating when you're like in the presence of, you know, like some auntie and uncle energy. It's really nourishing, you know. Just for y'all to know, Ganavia is a brilliant scholar, musician, psychologist being who is collaborating with us by researching in the fields that have to do with music and therapy and the mind. So once we clarified kind of what theme we wanted to write about, like what we wanted to offer the songs for, Ganavia went down the rabbit holes and brought up these, you know, references from different fields of study or scholarship, and then we worked with those sort of guideposts or subtle maps to really inform how we made the songs and arranged the songs.
The log, she's gonna put some more wood on the fire, but just stay where you are.
Nope, that's not what I meant to do. What happened? I dropped it. I dropped it. Oh my. Oh, come on. Do you need this?
Yeah, maybe so.
Okay.
So wow, that was incredible to see so many snippets of your creative life. Once again, I'm Charlie Brinkhurst-Cuff, and I'm honoured to be joined by the beautiful community builder and musician Esperanza Spalding. Thank you so much for this offering and allowing us such a joyful glimpse into your world.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me and for making space for this theme. Thank you for creating this space. Talk about curating community. I'm beaming into you from Portland, Oregon, and I always like to acknowledge that this is unceded land of the indigenous peoples of Oregon. Some of them are the Katlamet, the Clackamas, Tualatin, Multnomah, Willamette, among others, and I offer gratitude for how they've tended this land, and I'm committed to learn how to do reparation work through my life and residency here.
To get into these questions, I was wondering if you could tell us a little bit more about the work you've been doing in Portland to build this beautiful sanctuary for artists of colour.
Yeah, well, what you saw in this video, in this beautiful little window into what we were doing, is the final night of the Songwriters Apothecary Lab that I hosted in Portland. That's a dimension, I suppose, of creating sanctuary space for artists of color. In that lab, us songwriters, us musicians are really leaning into the question of how we can integrate therapeutic technologies, really. I'm going to use that word because technologies encompasses so many ways of knowing and applying knowledge. But how we can integrate therapeutic technologies into our music so that it has an enhanced salutary effect for the listener. And through the process of being in this lab and hosting or curating the lab space in different locations, I've learned how
powerful and restorative, nourishing and inspiring it is just to simply be in space with one another. It's particularly in healthy land. So this vision for the sanctuary is relatively simple. I mean, it's what we already know intuitively how to do. It's just curating space that's dedicated to gathering and being in each other's company without an agenda and without the pressure of needing to produce. It's truly a space to be at ease and restore oneself in the company of others who are showing up with a similar intention. Sometimes that looks like creating, sometimes that looks like jamming, sometimes that looks like crying, sometimes that looks like just being quiet and lying on the ground. Sometimes it looks like plotting how you're going to redesign the structure of your career so that you can be more in harmony with the forces of nature and the forces that sustain us. It really can be anything that is needed by the beings who are there. And I should say, there's also something that seems like a key ingredient, which is intimacy. So what you're seeing in that video is like real trust and intimacy among the people who gathered to celebrate the final night of the Songwriters Apothecary Lab. And I think this is something really important to, at least for me, to hold as like a value of the sanctuary practice moving forward. That it's not necessarily about how legible it is or how many people it can serve, but about creating an environment that allows real intimacy and vulnerability among the people who enter the space, particularly moving out of being in a pandemic where we've been so isolated. There's more I could say, of course, but those are some of the guiding principles and ideas behind this sanctuary, the Portland Sanctuary.
Yeah. Oh, I love the fact that you're approaching it with such transparency from the outset. Like you've already thought about the fact that you want to share the learnings, even if it's not, this huge open space for everyone to come through it. It's this intimately created thing. It's not that you're keeping that to yourself in some way. It's still you're telling people the learnings.
I'm really pro learning in public. I'm very pro that. I feel that it's actually related to wellness because it means that we don't have to perform perfection. And a very dear friend and teacher and colleague and ally of mine, Bronte Velez, was naming that for so many of us, women of color, there's this pressure that you can't fail because oh my God, that's making me emotional. It took so much for us to arrive at any position of power or of impact that it feels like we cannot stumble, we cannot fail. We have to have all of the T's crossed and the I's dotted and gotta like show that we're ready and we're deserving and like we're here and we got it. And I think that pressure is really devastating on the spirit, and it's really devastating on our capacity for imagining possibility. So part of what I hope to bring into this sanctuary building process is a kind of transparency that shows how much I don't know and how much we don't know as we are bravely, I want to say, building new structures that we don't have a prototype for. It's inevitable that we're going to make mistakes and we're going to like stumble and be like, ooh, I shouldn't have said it that way, or I shouldn't have done it that way. And to let that be a part of the beauty, that's how I'm approaching it. And I hope to make the process very visible, like very transparent, like here's what worked and here's what didn't, so that other artists who might feel inspired or are similarly exploring this theme can have their own, iteration of it or practice of it that can support the needs of restoration for their intimate community.
Yeah, amazing. I love that. Let's talk now a bit more explicitly about joy and what joy means to you in the context of creating space for community.
Whew. It's inevitable. That's what I've learned. I've learned that we're joyful people. It makes me actually think of John de Conquer, the Zora Neale Hurston telling of that archetype, of that character, and the kind of joy that comes from needing a reason to laugh at the end of the workday if you are an enslaved Black person. And this like depth and dimension of joy and humor that is so fugitive, like in its depth and capacity to alchemize the suffering and the inescapable. And I think all of us who have African ancestry, particularly those who are the descendants of enslaved peoples in this part of the world, I think we've got some like deep down in their coding of this deep joy. It's so powerful. And when it's given space to just be and invited in, like when we just sit back and are with each other, it wells forward. Like, if anything, that's the common denominator. Like in any space that I find myself in with Black folks, there's this like this thing that comes from our lives, you know? And I don't think it's ours. Like, I don't think we get to say we generated it in this lifetime. I think it's actually a part of our inheritance, that we have this alchemizing force that lives inside of us that shows itself when it's in the right company. You know what I mean? And I think of that when I think of Black joy, and I think of what a privilege, you know, what a gift to have inherited that. I feel like it's my responsibility in this lifetime, like in this generation, to really revel in the joy that's been passed on to me through the impossible, through the insurmountable, through so much grotesque horror and brutality. That this joy was passed forward like an envelope that was read and carefully sealed again and sent on to the next, and then opened in the next generation and carefully sealed and sent on in the next. It's like it's our duty. It's our duty to let that out and bring it through fully in this era when we can, and we can be seen in it, and we can be seen in the power of that joy.
Gorgeous. I think that's a really beautiful description, especially of the envelope. And I think we talk, or certainly I talk a lot about the inheritance of trauma, but definitely not enough about the inheritance of joy. I love how you related that.
Yes, 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 yes. And something about, I do believe that it's an innate inheritance, and I also know that there are members of our community who have suffered so much or have been not invited into reveling in their joy, that it doesn't feel available. Like it doesn't feel a part of their identity or way of communicating or connecting. So it also feels like the responsibility of modeling the joy and of bringing the joy into the room, so that the joy itself can kind of activate the other joys, the resonance of joys and the beings of other people who maybe don't feel invited into making it legible, you know?
I think that brings us neatly onto my final question, which is around some of your actual everyday practices around music, around sonic healing. How do they function as acts of joy for you in the everyday?
Well, I shy away from the word healing, because it means so many different things to so many people. And ultimately, the healing comes from your life, you know. I believe that music that has an enhanced salutary effect, what it's doing is inviting you into deeper connection and proximity with your own capacity for resiliency. So the reason I call it the Songwrites Apothecary Lab is because I feel like it's placing it with the right levity, that we're experimenting with ways we can offer support for your own innate capacity to restore and to find the calibration of resiliency most needed for whatever you're going through. And for me, now being in the practice of this lab, I find myself creating music for whatever I need in a moment. And I just think it's so hilarious that we all are carrying around this free medicine cabinet in ourselves. Like, even if you don't want to go sing in public, like, we all have music. We all have the capacity for music. Even if you're, you know, physically unable to make sound with your vocal cords, you can make rhythm somewhere in your body. You can hear music in your head. We're just these like walking, emanating, resonant entities full of music. And it feels like the more we give ourselves permission to use it for our own resiliency, the more resiliency we will find in our days and in our lives. And that's been a great gift and generator of joy in my personal life.
Esperanza, that was amazing. Thank you so much. What I've taken from that is that we are music and we are our own healing. So
Facts on facts on facts on facts on facts on facts. Yes.
So yeah, we really appreciate all of your beautiful work that you've shared here, and we cannot wait to support the project in Portland in whatever way that we can. You also have a special performance for us, which we're really excited for. And I've had a sneak preview as well, and I've been listening to it on repeat, as you know.
Hey.
So can you please introduce your song for us?
Absolutely. This is Formula 4. I co-wrote it with Corey King, who was my musical collaborator in the Portland chapter of the Songwrites Apothecary Lab. And in that iteration, we were also supported by Gana Viadoresvami on research and Dr. Marcel Norris as our elder council guide person. So when we got into the Songwrites Apothecary Lab for the Portland chapter, our prompt was, what do we each need a song for? And we realized that we both wished we had a song to support us when we were struggling to say what we really need to say to a loved one. Like, it's that moment where you're like, "Ugh," and you think I'll just let it go. But you need to say it. So this was the song that grew out of that prompt and the research that we touched on out of that prompt as well. And it's for, it's to support you and remind you of what you have access to in those moments when you're struggling to just say what's on your heart.
Okay, let's hear the performance. Thank you so much again, Esperanza.
Wanna be grown and let it go. Really didn't let it go though. Now we gotta tiptoe around this hole. It's aching on the ground of my world. You know we all see and make believe. Please, just what do you need, babe? Dare to say it. Dare to say it. Dare to say it. Dare to say it. And though my home and stone may break, dare to say it. Dare to say it. I can't hold it anymore. Let me allow the beauty from above who made you that way to be known, love, and get it made to know you need it that way. So let me love you, babe. We know you need it that way. Now we know, love, to get it made. You're gonna need it that way. Now we know, love, to get it made. You're gonna need it that way. Now we know. Tell it in the company of everyone who brought you in to carry that river on. Please, just what do you need, babe? Dare to say it. Dare to say it. Dare to say it. Dare to say it. And though my home and stone may break, dare to say it, dare to say it. I can't hold it anymore. Let me allow the beauty from above that made you that way to be known, love, and get it made to know you need it that way.
Thank you, Esperanza, and thank you, Charlie. One of the beautiful things about Juneteenth is that it's an opportunity for us to refill the well, and Esperanza's music always leaves us feeling held and plentiful.
It was incredible, wasn't it? And that song is still stuck in my head. It just, yeah, it's wonderful.
So good. Thanks again to Charlie, to Esperanza, to Questlove and Pierre, and every single person that contributed to the program tonight, and each of you watching along with us. We're so glad you're here. Tonight's program is viewable at any time on YouTube, and you can learn more about the series, including articles, interactives, and more at nytimes.com/BHC. For me, Juneteenth matters because it says, keep going. The future you want is coming.
Joy is us. We are joy.
Joy is music.
Joy is our inheritance.
Joy is the ancestral sun rising right now in your body, and you have permission to let it out.
I have a joy totem. I have something that I remind myself that this is an intentional act of joy.
Joy is living freely.
Joy is our right.
Joy means family, joy means food, joy means celebration. Joy for me just means togetherness, just being with the people that I love.
Joy is the Black community. We are joy.